I now have the greatest pleasure to invite His Excellency the President to deliver his message. Your Excellency, you may do so now.
Mr. Speaker, I'm glad to be here in this august House to perform once again one of the most pleasant duties on the calendar of the President of the Republic. That is to give honorable members and the Ghanaian people a message on the state of the nation in fulfillment of Article 67 of the Constitution of the Republic. In accordance with protocol and convention, it is good to see that my wife, the First Lady, Rebecca Akufo-Addo, Vice President Mahamadou Bawumia, the spouse of Mr. Speaker, Mrs. Alice Adjoa Jonas Bagben, Chief Justice Kwesi Enim-Yeboah and Justices of the Supreme Court, Chairperson Nana Uto Sribo II and members of the Council of State, Chief of Staff of the Office of the President, the Honorable Akusia Frima Osei Opare, and officials of the Presidency, the Chief of Defense Staff, Vice Admiral Seth Amoama, the Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Akufo-Dampare, and the various service chiefs are all present. Mr. Speaker, the House is also duly honored by the welcome attendance of the former Presidents of the Republic, Their Excellencies John Agyekum Kufuor and John Dramani Mahama. The former First Lady, Her Excellency Nana Konadu Agyeman-Rawlings, and the Dean and members of the Diplomatic Corps. Mr. Speaker, it is the 8th of March today, and that means it is International Women's Day, the day set aside globally to honor all women. Please allow me to acknowledge and appreciate the significance of the day and heartily congratulate women all over the world, and especially women in Ghana, for the role they play in realizing the dreams, cares, and aspirations of humankind and of this great nation. The presence of women leaders at both the local and national fronts have advanced rights, enhanced equality, and in general, improved the living standards and quality of lives of all concerned, including that of men. The theme for this year recognizes and celebrates women who are championing the advancement of transformative technology and digital education. Mr. Speaker, apart from my own personal fond memories as a member of this House, Parliament stands as a symbol of our democracy and its values. It stands as a reminder to all of us that our country has chosen to travel on the path of democracy, and at the heart of that journey is the idea that the government can only govern with the consent of the people. Mr. Speaker, it is important that we stress this point, because after 30 years of democratic practice, we may be tempted to take it for granted. We need to remind ourselves that our compatriots, the majority of whom are in their early adulthood, have no personal recollection of the struggles that got us to this point in our development. In the same way that only a small percentage of our population can recall life under colonial rule, similarly, the memory of dictatorship, one-party rule and military rule is receding into the dim past, and the struggles that have brought us so far are disappearing into the recesses of history. However, because Parliament directly represents the citizens of our nation in this hallowed chamber, it will always be the reminder of those struggles. It is important we never forget that democracy is not a static achievement, but a process that needs continuous nurturing. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, we must remind ourselves that in our country's political history, it is the restoration of Parliament to its proper place that has always symbolized the restoration of power to the people. And dare I say that when constitutional rule is interrupted, it is Parliament that is shut down. The other arms of government continue to operate. 30 years ago, this House convened for the first time to mark the commencement of the Fourth Republic. The early years of the return to democracy were fraught with challenges, but the years have seen the deepening of our democratic culture to a point where a candidate of the minority side in Parliament today presides as the Speaker. This is no mean achievement. Given the way the numbers shaped up in the House after the 2020 elections, many cynics and skeptics predicted a doomsday scenario for this Parliament. But instead of a meltdown, we've witnessed considerable cooperation and unity of purpose among all parties and factions. This is to a large extent a measure of the maturity of our political culture and democracy. We will need even more of such bipartisan maturity to meet the challenges confronting us at this time. Today, we live in a country in which we enjoy complete freedom of expression, freedom of association, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, and political affiliation. Indeed, freedom of speech has now reached such heights that even members of the diplomatic corps feel able to join in our national discourse and pronounce on matters that will be problematic for Ghanaian diplomats in their countries of origin. Nevertheless, Mr. Speaker, it seems to me the important thing in our free speech environment is actually to try and hear each other instead of raising the decibel level of our individual points of view. Mr. Speaker, to come before this House to deliver a message on the state of the nation is a symbol and practical demonstration of accountability. And I have always treated the occasion with the utmost respect. This address offers us, as usual, the opportunity to provide an honest assessment of our country's situation and seek the support of all in addressing it with hope and confidence. Mr. Speaker, when we make an assessment of what the state of the nation is, it would necessarily have to include what state it was in yesterday, the state it is in today, and what state it will be tomorrow, based on reasonable grounds of expectations. How far back should we be looking to make a judgment on the state of affairs today? Mr. Speaker, I believe that the issue above all that is quite properly dominating the concerns of all Ghanaians is the gravity of the economic situation of our country and how we can quickly stabilize the economy and work our way back to the period of rapid economic growth. Our currency has been buffeted, our inflation rate has been very high, and for the first time in our lives, debt exchanges have become the language of everyday conversation. As such, Mr. Speaker, I wish to make a departure from the usual format of messages on the state of the nation and concentrate predominantly on the economy, which will enable me nonetheless also to make some statements about the state of our agriculture, education, energy, health, infrastructure, mining, tourism, and security. This is not to belittle the contribution of the other sectors